Kansas to appeal ruling blocking abortion rules, including a medication restriction. Associated Press. The Republican Attorney General in Kansas is appealing a state judge's ruling that has blocked enforcement of multiple abortion restrictions, including a new limit on medication and an older rule forcing patients to wait 24 hours before they can get the procedure. Attorney General Chris Kobach filed a notice Thursday in Johnson County District Court in the Kansas City area, saying he will ask higher courts to overturn Judge K. Christopher Jayaram's decision last month. The judge concluded that. Below are your comments. U.S. Supreme Court says leave it up to the states to decide. The people in the states vote to protect abortion rights. The GOP wants to take it back to the court to restrict abortion rights. Why undo 50 years just to relitigate it all over again, with it more than likely going back to the Supreme Court? If anyone in my family needs any major medical procedure in the future, I'm going to tell my doctor that before we can make a decision, we need to talk to legislators in the state capitol to get their opinion first. If it is a male issue, we must talk to a female representative since they know Kobach couldn't tell the truth if he had to. The voters of Kansas enshrined abortion rights into the state constitution as an amendment. Now the Republicans are trying an end-around run to block the access that the voters voted on. So the argument here is, the Attorney General has a responsibility to protect women against radicals who want to deny them the ability to make informed decisions, but the mechanism for giving them that ability is to make them wait to have an abortion, and require doctors to. Wow. Democracy, the vote of the people, means nothing at all to these guys. Kansas, do you have the will to vote this guy out? He's been a menace to democracy in every regard, including disenfranchisement of the people. Next news. Biden signs temporary spending bill averting government shutdown, pushing budget fight into new year. Associated Press. President Joe Biden on Thursday signed a temporary spending bill a day before a potential government shutdown, pushing a fight with congressional Republicans over the federal budget into the new year, as wartime aid for Ukraine and Israel remains stalled. The measure passed the House and Senate by wide bipartisan margins this week, ensuring the government remains open until after the holiday season, and potentially giving lawmakers more time to sort out their considerable differences over Gover. Below are your comments. We only seem to have these problems with the budget when Republicans control the House and there is a Democratic president. Budget concerns are inexistent when the Republican House is spending on a Republican president. It is just obstruction. I think getting these bills passed is great for America. The people are grateful for the bipartisan support. Good job for all those involved. Hopefully this will lead to a good budget that takes care of the country's needs. Deficit spending is not good and can only be resolved in this case by INCRA. Biden claimed that he would veto any spending bill that did not include military aid to Ukraine. Biden is both spineless and a liar. I'm sure his sinking approval ratings and the polls showing him losing to Trump in 2024 had nothing to do with him signing the spending bill. Did he even know what he signed? Bidenomics has been a disaster. Next news. Climate change in Texas science textbooks causes divisions on state's education board. Associated Press. How science textbooks in Texas address climate change is at the center of a key vote expected Friday, after some Republican education officials criticized books for being too negative toward fossil fuels in America's biggest oil and gas state. The issue of which textbooks to approve has led to new divisions on the Texas State Board of Education, which over the years has faced other heated curriculum battles surrounding how evolution and U.S. history is taught to the more than 5 million students. Below are your comments. The oil companies, since 1978, have known the outcome of further increased use of fossil fuels on Earth via more heat to melt mountain glaciers, Greenland's massive glaciers, the Arctic ice and Antarctic glaciers. Also, extra heat in the ocean make hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons strong. Before they get to promote an alternative to evolution, they need to explain how all of the species found on the planet today, not to mention the ones that have gone extinct, fit on an ark. Not just animals, but plant life, too. What? Do I hear they evolved from what the ark carried? Republican education officials criticized books for being too negative toward fossil fuels in America's biggest oil and gas state. It's all because they know who butters their bread. When Galveston is under 10 feet of seawater, they will still be having their bread being buttered. What's missing, father? Next news. New York judge lifts gag order that barred Donald Trump from maligning court staff in fraud trial. Associated Press. A gag order that barred Donald Trump from commenting about court personnel after he disparaged a law clerk in his New York civil fraud trial was temporarily lifted Thursday by an appellate judge who iced free speech concerns. Judge David Friedman of the state's Intermediate Appeals Court issued what's known as a stay, suspending the gag order and allowing the former president to speak freely about court staff while a longer appeals process plays out. The trial judge, Arthur Engeron, imposed. Below are your comments. All those who are the victims of Trump's free speech should sue him for slander. Put simply, slander is a legal term used to describe defamation or the act of harming a person or business's reputation by telling one or more people something that is untrue and damaging about them. Slander can be. The guy is above the law. Let's face it. He's the frontrunner of a major political party despite his 91 counts. They continue to poll him every day as if those cases shouldn't stop him from running. We will never give him the justice that he deserves until we face the truth that we treat him above. People don't seem to understand the First Amendment and freedom of speech. You can say anything you want as long as you do not put other fellow citizens' lives in danger. Along with freedom of speech come responsibilities. Next news. Corporate, global leaders peer into a future expected to be reshaped by AI, for better or worse. AS. OCIATED Press. President Joe Biden and other global leaders have spent the past few days melding minds with Silicon Valley titans in San Francisco, their discussions frequently focusing on artificial intelligence, a technology expected to reshape the world, for better or worse. For all the collective brainpower on hand for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference, there were no concrete answers to a pivotal question. Will AI turn be the springboard that catapults humanity to new heights, or the dystop? Below are your comments. This is not conspiracy talk. AI with be as catastrophic as the internet has been. All the lives lost due to people manipulating us into believing we can't function without computers. IR the phone or the internet, now AI. I'm headed to my fallout shelter. AI will not be kind to humans. We are born K. Yeah, we need I. Natural intelligence has run its course. We need to give our brains a rest. Let machines take over for a while. We're tired of always thinking. Too much already. Roll another blunt and turn on Netflix. President Joe Biden and other global leaders have spent the past few days melding minds with Silicon Valley titans in San Francisco. God save us. The transformation has already begun. For me, anything called artificial has always been a turn-off. Next news. The protests outside DNC headquarters signal the divides in Biden's base over Israel-Hamas war. Associated Press. National Democrats this year have insisted the party is united and ready to rally around President Joe Biden heading into next year's election. Clashing with police Wednesday night were demonstrators calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and criticizing Biden's support of Israel's offensive following the October 7 Hamas attack. Inside the building were Democrats organizing to try to take back the U.S. House next year, including moderates from swing states. Biden flipped from former President Donald Trump. Below are your comments. I love how the Hamas terrorists supporting peace activists got violent. Riots, not protests. Insurrection. Come on, Cheney, step up to the plate and shine. Biden cannot control Israel's decision as to how far and long they will go with their invasion. So, Israel controls Biden's future in 2024 given all of the protest on his position to support Israel. Even if Israel were to stop, Biden has really taken a big hit from a lot of his 2020 supporters. The inevitable thugs were planted in the peaceful demonstration that goes against the MAGA cult dictatorship's position on the Israeli-Hamas war by, most likely, that very cult in attempting to portray why the demonstration being as violent as they are. Next news. China's agreement expected to slow flow of fentanyl into U.S., but not solve overdose epidemic. Associated Press. Experts say new steps China has agreed to will eventually reduce the flow of the deadly opioid fentanyl into the U.S., but that alone will not stem the overdose crisis. Bleep Americans at a record rate. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping announced at a meeting Wednesday in California that China is telling its chemical companies to curtail shipments to Latin America and elsewhere of the materials used to produce fentanyl, which is largely finished in Mexico and then smuggled. Below are your comments. Let's face it, the substance addiction overdose issue is an internal American issue. Today's biggest provider of fentanyl chemical precursor might be China, but tomorrow it could be India, Mexico, Germany, North Korea, Italy, or whoever. But as long as Americans keep on abusing fentanyl sumbod. An agreement made to create the belief that they're working towards an issue that's impacted many in the U.S. This is exactly like a political promise given from a podium. We'll look into it. Free of guarantees, it is as meaningless as any commitment made by a China that looks after its own interests. Give doctors drugs to prescribe for pain and the demand for fentanyl will dwindle. Next news. Biden and Mexico's leader will meet in California. Fentanyl, migrants and Cuba are on the agenda. As Associated Press. President Joe Biden and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, two strong allies who don't always get along personally, will talk migration, fentanyl trafficking and Cuba relations on Friday. The two leaders are in San Francisco for the annual Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference (WH). Biden has held a series of face-to-face meetings with other leaders, including China's President Xi Jinping and the leaders of Japan and South Korea, as he seeks to reassure the region that the U. Below are your comments. Impending high five for all the Gen Z replacements, aka future homeowners. Don't care about the drug addicts dying from fentanyl, which really just accelerates the inevitable. But Biden has to pressure Mexico to beef up its border with Guatemala to prevent any more Venezuelans and others from crossing over. China and Mexico are great at giving lip service. Both make billions off the suffering and death of others in this country. Mexico is corrupt from the top down and China sees flooding America with fentanyl is a good political move. Neither country will stop. Weird, back-to-back with gruesome in Cali. Come on, can ya guess who won't be running next year? Next news. Key GOP lawmaker calls for renewal of surveillance tool as he proposes changes to protect privacy. Associated Press. The Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee called Thursday for the renewal of a key U.S. government surveillance tool as he proposed a series of changes aimed at safeguarding privacy. The proposals by Rep. Mike Turner are part of a late scramble inside Congress and the White House to guarantee the reauthorization of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which allows spy agencies to see, elect emails and other communications. We believe that before the end of. Below are your comments. Would this include contact between Russian assets and presidential candidates' campaign? $10,000 I could get the name of specific target in 3 guesses. A temporary loss of safety is not worth a permanent loss of liberty. No warrantless searches U.S. citizens and their privacy interests. This is enshrined in the Constitution. The administrative state would love nothing more than to undermine this basic tenet of United States liberty so that they can. It gets tricky when surveillance is put on foreign spy service personnel but domestic individuals CALL them. Even trickier when those domestic individuals work for the leader of one of our political parties. Next news. Biden's defunct student loan forgiveness plan wasn't well protected against fraud, watchdog says. USA Today. President Joe Biden's first failed student loan forgiveness plan had a fraud problem, according to an independent watchdog. Below are your comments. I have yet to hear or read one reason or justification for so-called student loan forgiveness that isn't a fraud. They signed the contract and took the money, so now let them find a way to pay the money back with interests specified in the contract. While I support efforts to combat fraud, the comments here are ridiculous. We're only talking about self-reported income verification, which is going to be a tiny percentage of student loan borrowers. Of those, how many are committing fraud? So the 1% estimate is likely not far off. But even the fraud problem all along is duping the taxpayers into paying someone else's loan commitments. How could it have been protected? There is no way the Department of Education had the capacity to verify every one of the millions of people who applied to have their loans forgiven. It was a sham vote-buying scheme from the start. Surprise. Typical. Let's fix fraud by covering it up with more fraud so we will forget about the original fraud. Once the cover-up fraud is found out. Next news. The judge in Trump's Georgia election case limits the disclosure of evidence after video's release. Associated Press. The judge overseeing the election interference case against former President Donald Trump and others in Georgia issued an order on Thursday that prohibits the release of certain evidence. The ruling came after news outlets this week reported on the contents of and published clips from interviews that 4 defendants conducted with prosecutors as part of their plea deals. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee wrote that allowing parties the unfettered ability to publicly share predator. Below are your comments. So I remember early on Trump and some of his other defendants arguing for change of venue or restricting what the prosecutor can say because it would harm the jury pool and harm their defendants. But here it's okay? The hypocrisy of the GQP is incredible. You know, I am not a lawyer, but it sounds like someone may be headed to jail for witness intimidati on tampering. If not Donald, then one of the other defendants in the RICO case. Had Mitch McConnell impeached Donald, we would not have this ongoing circus of legal issues before U.S. This is a big shame for our country. Do not vote for Trump. Next news. Colleges banned groups over anti-Semitism. Then new ones formed. Politico. The Biden administration has unveiled new actions and resources to address the rise in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents at schools and on college campuses. Below are your comments. This is an easy one. Expel students who espouse hateful, violent and anti-Semitic rhetoric. All perpetrators get one warning. Colleges for years have been censoring and canceling free speech much tamer than this simply because they don't view it as politically correct. Colleges banned groups over anti-Semitism. Then new ones formed. In the United States of America you have the constitutional right to be anti-any thing you like, that includes being anti-Semitic. Want to argue that point? Speech is not violence, folks, no matter how much some wish it was. There is no such thing as Islamophobia. Bigotry and racism exist, of course, and they are evils that all well-intentioned people must oppose. And prejudice against Muslims or Arabs, purely because of the accident of their birth, is despicable. But like all religions, Islam is a system of ideas and next news. Appeals court temporarily lifts Trump gag order in civil fraud case. NBC News. A New York appeals court temporarily blocked a gag order in former President Donald Trump's civil Fr. AUD trial that barred him from complaining about the judge's law clerk. Below are your comments. This is a disgraceful decision. It allows defendants to undermine the integrity of the courts and the legal system by permitting THR eats to intimidate witnesses, court personnel, potential jurors, opposing attorneys, judges and the families of all of them. Every time he says something out of pocket, fine him $50,000. Say what you like. Just pay. Next time you get a traffic ticket, fight it. Go to the courthouse and call the judge a deranged lunatic. After you spend a night in jail, I bet you won't do it again. Enough already with the delays in appeals. Put this traitorous fascist clown in prison for the rest of his miserable, disgusting life. They are giving him partial victory, before he loses badly. Next news. As Georgia looks to court-ordered redistricting, not only Republicans are in peril. Associated Press. It's a pattern Southern states have repeated for decades. A federal court rules an electoral map illegally dilutes the power of black voters and orders a new one. Unlike earlier decades, when Republicans avoided losses, some Georgia GOP lawmakers are now likely to walk the plank when new districts are drawn. U.S. District Judge Steve Jones in October ordered Georgia to draw black majorities in one additional congressional district, 2 additional state Senate districts, and 5 additional Santa. Below are your comments. Republicans are afraid of fair maps because they can't win with them. Republicans are blatantly anti-democracy. It's so weird that political parties get to pick their voters. This could be one of those, be careful what you wish for, it just might come true, for Democrats. Republicans just cheat. How hard is it to just be fair? Next news. DeSantis, Haley and Ramaswamy will meet in Iowa for a family discussion on politics. Associated Press. The Republicans battling to be the alternative to former President Donald Trump will come together or what an influential Christian organization in Iowa is billing as a friendly conversation on politics and their world views. 3 candidates, Florida Gov. Ron DeSantis, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy will appear at the Roundtable Family Discussion in Des Moines Friday. Below are your comments. 2 questions. Bonus question. Will they be serving GOP party power in the green room? Asking for a friend. A friendly conversation? Sure. YH. Only 3 comments? Shows ya how important 3 distant second placers to a lifelong criminal, meeting with some of the honest and most corrupt folk in America. The so-called Christian right is to readers. Have it, folks, nobody is listening. Next news. Man who attacked Representative Angie Craig sentenced to 27 months in prison. NBC News. Kendred Khalil Hamlin pleaded guilty in June to 1 count of assault on a member of Congress. Stemmen. G from the Feb. 9 attack at an elevator in Craig's apartment complex. Below are your comments. These MAGA nuts attacking good, hard-working Americans and counting on a Trump re-election to get pardoned for their crimes. We cannot let that happen. An attorney for Hamlin previously said that he did not know Craig was a member of Congress, and Capitol police have said there was no evidence the Congresswoman was targeted because of her position. Carrot as if that somehow excuses the assault or makes it somehow less egregious. Exclamation mark. Great news. Another low IQ Trump supporter going to prison. Donald will be joining him soon. Get the KY jelly ready, boys. I wonder Dems lie all the time. Next news. Haley secures former Tim Scott donors as her money momentum continues. NBC News. Nikki Haley's 2024 bid started to pick up momentum in the debates. Now, she is starting to vacuum up money, as GOP donors see her as a good Trump alternative. Below are your comments. People need to put their personal feelings and egos aside. Trump's numbers continue to increase despite there being many in his camp not particularly loyal. After Iowa, it will be clearer as to whether Haley alone can dethrone Trump. If not, then Haley must join with DeSantis. They appeal to different. Tim Scott had donors? Main problem is, Republicans would never vote for a woman as president. Second problem is, she's not even qualified to become president if she doesn't accept the 2020 elect. Ion. If she does accept President Biden won, then Republicans won't vote for her. Next news. Hunter Biden interviewed by special counsel in father's classified docs probe. NBC News. Special counsel Robert Hur last month interviewed President Joe Biden as part of an investigation into his handling of classified material after he left office as vice president. Below are your comments. Joe Biden's handling of classified documents is reportedly not expected to bring charges. I am so surprised to hear that outcome. What a bunch of malarkey. If I had one document in the garage next to my Corvette, they would put me in jail. Just another elite who doesn't have to follow rules. Mean W. Always the double standard. Woozy face with rolling eyes. Joe sold copies to China. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.